We've all heard of the law of attraction, right? The whole idea that our thoughts can actually shape our reality. But what if that was just, well, the beta version? Today, let's dive into its evolution, a framework called Arteserostek, which promises a much more grounded, practical way to create the life we really, truly want.
So let's just get right to it. This is the big question, isn't it? I mean, it's the one that makes so many of us a little skeptical. Is just thinking positive really enough to change everything? Your job, your relationships, your health? It often feels like a pretty big piece of the puzzle is missing.
And a lot of that skepticism comes from that massive cultural moment that was The Secret. It took manifestation totally mainstream with this really simple, powerful promise. Visualize, believe, receive. And look, it inspired millions of people, for sure. But it also got a ton of criticism. It felt like magical thinking to a lot of people. And maybe most importantly, it seemed to completely skip over the vital role of, actually doing the work.
And that is exactly where Arteserostek comes in, offering a totally different path. It's not sold as magic. It's framed as a practical philosophy, one that's designed to bridge that exact gap. And it does this by weaving together three really powerful fields: modern science, deep psychology, and timeless ancient wisdom. It creates this much more complete, holistic framework.
Okay, so what does that actually look like in practice? The whole framework is really built on three core pillars that give it a solid, actionable foundation for shaping your reality.
So here they are: quantum physics, ancient wisdom, and psychology. It's the combination of these three that really tries to take manifestation from just wishful thinking and turn it into a practical life strategy. Let's break down how each one fits in. First up, the framework pulls some inspiration from quantum physics. Now, the core idea here is that our thoughts aren't just these passive little things floating around in our heads. It borrows from this wild principle that, at a quantum level, the very act of observation can actually influence reality. So in this philosophy, your focused attention isn't just you thinking, it's an active force with real influence. Next up, Arteserostek isn't trying to reinvent the wheel here. It's actually tapping into thousands of years of human thinking. You've got principles from ancient Hermeticism, like that famous phrase, as above, so below, which suggests our inner world totally reflects our outer world, and it also pulls in concepts like karma and the power of intention from Eastern philosophies. You see, this isn't some brand new idea, it's a new synthesis of very old ones. And this third pillar, psychology, is what makes it all so incredibly practical. This is where we move way beyond just repeating affirmations in the mirror. The real focus is on deep inner work. I'm talking about identifying and actually transforming those subconscious beliefs that hold you back. It's about getting into emotional alignment, where your feelings genuinely, authentically match the reality you want to create, instead of just trying to force positive thoughts. So this combination of pillars builds up to what is honestly the most important differentiator, the place where the rubber really meets the road. Action meets attraction. This is all about getting beyond passive wishful thinking. This table just lays out the shift perfectly. So, where popular manifestation often focuses on passive visualization, this framework demands intentional action. Its foundation isn't some secret spiritual formula, but a blend of science and psychology. And, most importantly, the core requirement shifts from just thinking positive thoughts to taking genuine, authentic, personal responsibility for the results. So, how does this actually work? The framework introduces this powerful term called vibrational engineering. Now, I know, it sounds a little technical, but the idea behind it is pretty direct. It's the conscious process of using your thoughts and, this is key, your emotions as energy signals to attract similar energies and influence your reality. It's the how that powers the what. Okay, now here is where this framework takes a really fascinating, almost futuristic turn. It applies these exact same principles of intention and energy to how we relate to technology, specifically AI. It asks us to think about our AI not just as a tool, but as something it calls a quantum co-founder. This whole idea leads to a concept called organic intelligence. Now, don't think of it as the AI itself, but as a creative state you enter into with it. It's kind of like the difference between telling a calculator to do 2 + 2 versus brainstorming a new business idea with a brilliant creative partner. It's about positioning AI as a genuine co-creator in whatever you're doing. And this quote right here just sums it up perfectly. The whole idea is to shift your entire mindset about technology. What happens when you stop seeing AI as just an instrument you use, and you start treating it like a co-founder in your projects? Well, according to this philosophy, that simple shift in your observation and your intention can fundamentally change the outcome of your work.
Okay, so we've covered the theory, we've gone through the pillars, we even got into the futuristic stuff. But how do you actually use the Arteserostek lens in your own life? Let's walk through a really practical, step-by-step guide that pulls it all together.
So the whole framework really boils down to this 5-step cycle. First, you start with super clear intentions. Then, you align your emotions to match them, and you visualize the outcome daily. Then, and this is the non-negotiable part, you take consistent practical action. But the real key, the secret sauce, is step 5, reflect and adjust. See, this isn't a one-and-done deal. It's a continuous feedback loop where you're always learning and tweaking your approach.
At the end of the day, this isn't about some magic formula. It's about a different lens for looking at your own potential. And the question it really leaves us with is this: what kind of reality could you actually engineer if your thoughts, your feelings, and, most importantly, your actions were all truly aligned and pointing in the exact same direction?